Evelyn's hands shook as she held the final letter, the one that promised forever. Marcus Brennan stood 3 feet away, laughing so hard, tears streamed down his face. "Read it out loud," he told the crowd gathering at the train station. "Read the part where I called you my soulmate." His friends roared. Evelyn's vision blurred. 6 months of letters, 37 promises of love. All of it, every beautiful word, every dream he'd painted, a $50 wager to see if he could make a lonely woman cross the country for nothing. She'd sold everything she owned to get here, and he'd destroyed her in the time it took to draw breath.
Retire.
Before we continue, I'd love for you to subscribe to this channel and stay with this story until the very end. Please comment below with the city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The April sun beat down on Evelyn's shoulders, but she couldn't feel it. Couldn't feel anything except the weight of 40 pairs of eyes watching her stand there like a fool. Miss Hart. Marcus took a step closer, his smile sharp as broken glass. "You look different than your photograph. Much different." The men behind him snickered. Evelyn's fingers tightened on her traveling bag. "You wrote that I was beautiful." "I wrote a lot of things." He shrugged. "You believe them. That's not my fault." Someone in the crowd whispered, a woman's voice pitying and cruel all at once. Evelyn's throat closed. 6 months of letters. Promises of a home, a partnership, a life built together. She'd sold her mother's silverware to afford the train ticket. Told her boarding house landlady she wouldn't be back. Burned every bridge she had because Marcus Brennan said he loved her. The bet was simple. Marcus continued addressing the crowd now instead of her. "Write the prettiest letters to the homeliest woman I could find. See if she'd actually show up." The laughter spread like wildfire. Evelyn's vision blurred. She would not cry. Not here. Not in front of these people. "You have a place to stay?" Marcus asked, his tone shifting to something almost kind. Almost. "Because I'm afraid my home isn't available. I'm engaged to Miss Catherine Whitmore, have been for 3 months now." A blonde woman in a blue dress stepped forward, linking her arm through Marcus's. She looked at Evelyn the way someone might look at a stray dog. "You poor thing," Catherine murmured. That was worse than the laughter. Evelyn bent to pick up her trunk. Her hands shook so badly she nearly dropped it. "Here, let me help you with that." A man's voice, quieter than Marcus's. Evelyn didn't look up. "She doesn't need your help." "Hale," Marcus called out. "She needs to get back on that train and go home." "The train doesn't leave until tomorrow," the quiet voice said. Evelyn finally raised her eyes. The man standing beside her wasn't looking at Marcus. He was looking at her trunk, already lifting it with an ease that suggested he'd spent his life doing hard work. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that needed cutting and eyes that gave away nothing at all. "I didn't ask for help," Evelyn said. "I know." He adjusted his grip on the trunk. "Where are you staying tonight?" "That's none of your concern." "It is if you're sleeping in the street." Marcus laughed again. "Always the hero, Jonah. Though I have to say, even for you this is scraping the bottom of the barrel." Jonah didn't respond. Didn't even glance in Marcus's direction. "The boarding house 2 streets over has rooms," he said to Evelyn. "Mrs. Chen runs it. She's fair." "I don't have money for a room." The words came out before Evelyn could stop them. She'd spent everything on the ticket. Had planned to arrive as Marcus's bride, not as a woman with nowhere to go. Jonah nodded once, as if she'd simply told him the weather. "Then you'll stay at my place tonight. I have space." Every person on that platform stopped breathing. "Absolutely not," Evelyn said. "Why not?" "Because I don't know you. Because this entire town just watched me get humiliated. Because I'd rather sleep under a tree than accept charity from a stranger who probably wants the same thing Marcus did." Something flickered across Jonah's face. Not anger. Something quieter and more dangerous. "I don't want anything from you," he said. "But you need a place to sleep, and I have one. That's all this is." Men don't help women for nothing. Some men don't. He started walking, carrying her trunk, as if the conversation was over. I'm not most men. Evelyn stood there, fury and desperation warring in her chest. Behind her, Marcus was already walking away, with Catherine the show over. The crowd was dispersing, their entertainment concluded. She could stay here, prove some kind of point. Or she could follow the stranger, who was currently disappearing down the dusty street with everything she owned. She followed. Jonah Hale's property sat at the edge of town, a small cabin with a barn and a corral that held 2 horses. It wasn't much, but it was more than Evelyn had expected. More than she had. He set her trunk on the porch and turned to face her. You can have the cabin tonight, he said. I'll sleep in the barn. That's ridiculous. You think I'm going to make you sleep in a barn? I think this entire situation is absurd. Evelyn crossed her arms. Why are you doing this? Because you need help. People need help every day. I don't see you collecting strays regularly. Maybe I should start. It wasn't a joke. His expression remained flat serious, like he was genuinely considering it. Evelyn exhaled slowly. What do you want in return? Nothing. Everyone wants something. Then I'm the exception. He moved past her and opened the cabin door. There's food in the cupboard, water in the pitcher. Lock the door from the inside if it makes you feel safer. He was walking toward the barn before Evelyn could respond. Wait, she called out. He stopped, but didn't turn around. Why did Marcus call you always the hero? Because he's an idiot. That's not an answer. Jonah looked back at her then, and for the first time she saw something in his eyes that looked almost like pain. Because 3 years ago I pulled his drunk ass out of a river, he said. He thinks that makes me noble. I think it makes me someone who happened to be there. Big difference. He disappeared into the barn. Evelyn stood on the porch, clutching her shawl, wondering what kind of man saved a drowning person, and then acted like it didn't matter. She didn't sleep that night. The cabin was clean, sparse, functional. A single room with a bed, a table, a stove. No photographs, no personal items. Nothing that suggested Jonah Hale had a life beyond existing. Evelyn sat at the table and cried. Not because of Marcus. He was a bastard, and she'd been a fool, but that pain was already hardening into something she could carry. She cried because she had nowhere to go. No money, no prospects. No plan beyond getting on that train tomorrow and going. Where? Back to St. Louis. To the boarding house she'd left. To the life she'd tried so hard to escape. She'd been so certain Marcus was her answer. Her way out of a life spent scrubbing other people's floors and mending other people's clothes. A life where she was invisible, except when someone needed something from her. The letters had made her feel seen, and that had been the cruelest lie of all. Baig. Morning came too fast. Evelyn washed her face, braided her hair, and forced herself to look presentable. When she stepped outside, Jonah was already in the corral working with one of the horses. He glanced up. There's coffee on the stove. Thank you. Train leaves at noon. I know. She went back inside, poured herself coffee she didn't want, and tried to figure out what the hell she was going to do. An hour later, Jonah knocked on the door. Come in, Evelyn said. He stayed outside. Mrs. Chen at the boarding house is looking for someone to help with cooking and cleaning. Room and board plus a small wage. I mentioned you might be interested. Evelyn stared at him. Why would you do that? Because you said you don't have money for a room. This solves that. You don't know if I can cook. Can you? Yes? Then go talk to her. It was that simple to him. A problem, a solution, no drama in between. Evelyn set down her coffee cup. If I take that job, people will talk. People are already talking. They'll say I came here to trap a husband and settled for charity work when that didn't work out. Let them say it. Easy for you to say. You're not the one they're talking about. Jonah stepped into the doorway then, and Evelyn realized how much space he took up without trying. They'll talk no matter what you do, he said quietly. You can get on that train and let them talk about how you ran away, or you can stay and let them talk about how you didn't. Either way, their opinion doesn't change your reality. And what is my reality? That you got lied to by a piece of shit who thought cruelty was entertainment. That you're still standing here. That you have a choice about what comes next. He paused. That's more than most people get. Evelyn's throat tightened. You make it sound simple. It is simple. It's just not easy. He left before she could respond. Mrs. Chen was a small, fierce woman who looked at Evelyn like she was appraising livestock. Jonah says you need work, she said. I do. Can you cook for 20 people? Yes. Can you do it without burning down my kitchen? I've been cooking since I was 8 years old, never burned down a single kitchen. Mrs. Chen's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Jonah also says Marcus Brennan is a fool. Jonah seems to have a lot of opinions. Jonah doesn't talk much. When he does, I listen. Mrs. Chen gestured toward the kitchen. Show me what you can do. 2 hours later, Evelyn had made bread soup and a berry cobbler with ingredients Mrs. Chen provided. The older woman tasted each dish in silence, her expression giving nothing away. Finally, she nodded. You start tomorrow. Room is upstairs, second door on the left. Meals included. $3 a week. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You'll earn every penny. Evelyn believed her. That evening, she found Jonah at his property, mending a fence. I got the job, she said. He hammered in another nail. Good. Mrs. Chen is terrifying. She runs a fair business. You'll be fine. Evelyn watched him work this stranger who'd upended her entire trajectory without asking for anything in return. Why did you help me? She asked. Jonah set down his hammer. Because I know what it's like to have nowhere to go. Is that what happened to you? Once. Who helped you? No one. He picked up the hammer again. That's why I helped you. It was the most honest thing anyone had said to Evelyn in months. I don't know how to repay you, she said. Don't repay me. Just don't let Marcus Brennan define what you're worth. He went back to his fence, and Evelyn stood there feeling something shift in her chest. Not gratitude, not even relief. Something closer to hope. The boarding house became her world. Evelyn woke before dawn, prepared breakfast for 15 guests, cleaned rooms, washed linens, prepared lunch, prepared dinner, collapsed into bed. Mrs. Chen was exacting, demanding, impossible to please, and fair. She paid on time, provided good meals, and didn't tolerate any nonsense from the guests. Someone gives you trouble, you tell me, Mrs. Chen said during Evelyn's first week. I'll handle it. I can handle it myself. I know you can, but you don't have to. It was a small kindness, but Evelyn held on to it like a lifeline. The town predictably talked. She heard the whispers when she walked to the general store, saw the looks when she attended church. The women were the worst, their pity laced with judgment, their sympathy barbed with superiority. Poor thing, they'd murmur, came all this way for nothing. Evelyn learned to smile and keep walking. Jonah appeared occasionally, usually to drop off firewood for Mrs. Chen, or fix something that had broken. He never stayed long, never made conversation beyond what was necessary. But Evelyn noticed things. The way he always showed up when heavy work needed doing. The way Mrs. Chen never questioned his presence. The way he'd nodded Evelyn once, just once, before leaving, as if checking that she was still standing. 3 weeks after her arrival, Marcus Brennan walked into the boarding house dining room. Evelyn was serving lunch. She saw him the moment he entered, his expensive coat and polished boots, announcing his presence before he said a word. Her hands didn't shake. That surprised her. Miss Hart, Marcus said, his tone almost friendly. I heard you were working here. Mr. Brennan. Evelyn set down a plate in front of another guest. What can I do for you? I wanted to apologize. The entire room went quiet. Evelyn looked at him directly. For what specifically? For... The misunderstanding at the station. There was no misunderstanding. You humiliated me on purpose. His smile faltered. I may have taken the joke too far. It wasn't a joke. It was cruelty. Evelyn picked up an empty pitcher. And I don't accept your apology. Marcus's face hardened. I'm trying to be a gentleman here. Then you should have started 3 weeks ago. She walked past him into the kitchen. Her heart was pounding, but her steps were steady. Mrs. Chen was waiting, arms crossed. You handled that well, the older woman said. I wanted to throw the pitcher at his head. I would have let you. Evelyn laughed, surprised by the sound. From the dining room, she heard Marcus leave. Heard the door slam. Heard the whispers start immediately. She didn't care. For the first time since arriving in this town, she didn't care what they thought.
That's Bog.
That evening, Jonah appeared at the boarding house back door. Heard Marcus came by, he said. News travels fast. It's a small town. Evelyn wiped her hands on her apron. I handled it. I know. Mrs. Chen told me. He shifted his weight, looking almost uncomfortable. But if he bothers you again... I'll handle it, Evelyn interrupted. I don't need you to fight my battles. I know you don't. Jonah met her eyes. Doesn't mean you have to fight them alone. Something in Evelyn's chest loosened. Thank you, she said quietly. He nodded once and left. Evelyn stood in the doorway watching him disappear into the twilight and realized that Jonah Hale had given her something Marcus Brennan never had. Not promises, not pretty words, just the simple, steady truth that she didn't have to carry everything by herself. And somehow that meant more than all of Marcus's letters combined. Which made what happened 2 days later cut even deeper. Evelyn was at the general store purchasing supplies for Mrs. Chen when Catherine Whitmore walked in with 3 other women. They didn't acknowledge Evelyn at first, too busy discussing the upcoming church social. I think pink ribbons would be lovely, Catherine was saying. Don't you agree, Margaret? Absolutely. Though I'm not sure everyone should be invited. Some people might make others uncomfortable. They weren't even trying to be subtle. Evelyn kept her eyes on the merchant, Mr. Patterson, who was measuring out flour. His discomfort was visible in the way he avoided looking at anyone. Miss Hart, Catherine said suddenly. I didn't see you there. Mrs. Patterson asked me to wait while he finished with your order, Evelyn replied evenly. How considerate. Catherine's smile was razor sharp. I've been meaning to ask, how are you finding our little town? It must be quite different from what you expected. It's exactly what I expected. Really, I'd have thought it would be rather disappointing. Evelyn met her gaze. I stopped being disappointed the moment I realized Marcus Brennan was a coward who needed an audience to feel like a man. The silence that followed was absolute. Catherine's face flushed red. How dare you? How dare I what? Tell the truth. Your fiancé lied to me for 6 months, humiliated me publicly, and you stood there smiling like you'd won something. Evelyn took a step closer. So let me ask you, Miss Whitmore, what exactly did you win? A man who treats women like entertainment? Congratulations. One of the other women gasped. Mr. Patterson cleared his throat. Miss Hart, your flour is ready. Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Evelyn collected her purchases paid and walked out with her head high. Her hands didn't start shaking until she was halfway back to the boarding house. Mrs. Chen took one look at her face and pointed to a chair. Sit, tell me. Evelyn told her everything. Good, Mrs. Chen said when she finished. About time someone said it. I just made an enemy of the wealthiest family in town. Catherine Whitmore was already your enemy. Now she just knows you're not afraid of her. Mrs. Chen poured 2 cups of tea. You think being quiet keeps you safe. It doesn't. It just makes you an easier target. Speaking up could get me fired. Not from my boarding house. Mrs. Chen's voice was firm. I don't care who her father is. You work hard, you're honest, and you don't deserve to be treated like dirt. That's all that matters to me. Evelyn's throat tightened. Thank you. Don't thank me, just keep doing what you're doing. That evening, Jonah showed up with a wagon load of firewood. Heard you had words with Catherine Whitmore, he said while stacking logs. Does everyone in this town report to you? Mr. Patterson mentioned it when I was buying grain. And nothing. Just wanted to make sure you're all right. Evelyn grabbed a log and added it to the pile. Why wouldn't I be? Because the Whitmores have influence. So do you. Jonah stopped mid-motion. I don't have influence. I have land and I keep to myself. That's influence. People respect you. People tolerate me. He lifted another log. There's a difference. Why do you do that? Do what? Act like you don't matter. Jonah set down the log carefully. I'm not acting. Yes, you are. Evelyn crossed her arms. You helped me when no one else would. You got me a job. You make sure Mrs. Chen has firewood before every cold snap. You fixed the church roof last spring without asking for payment. I've heard the stories. Those are just things that needed doing. And you're the one who did them. Evelyn stepped closer. That means something, Jonah, whether you believe it or not. He looked at her, then really looked at her, and something flickered across his face that she couldn't name. People like the Whitmores don't forget when someone challenges them, he said quietly. Just be careful. I'm always careful. No, you're not. You're brave. That's different. He finished stacking the wood and left before Evelyn could figure out how to respond to that. 3 days later, Marcus Brennan showed up at the boarding house again, this time drunk and angry. Evelyn was clearing tables after dinner when he stumbled through the door. She smelled the whiskey before she saw his face. We need to talk, he slurred. No, we don't. Evelyn kept working. You need to leave. Catherine won't marry me anymore. Says I embarrassed her. That's between you and Catherine. It's your fault. Marcus grabbed her arm, his grip tight enough to hurt. You had to run your mouth to her friends. Had to make me look bad. Evelyn tried to pull away. Let go of me. Not until you fix this. There's nothing to fix. You humiliated me first, remember? That was different. That was just what? Just a joke, just a bet. Just your entertainment. Evelyn's voice rose. You don't get to ruin my life and then blame me when yours falls apart. Marcus's other hand came up, and for a horrible moment, Evelyn thought he might hit her. Let her go. Jonah's voice cut through the room like a blade. Marcus turned wobbling. This doesn't concern you, Hale. You're in Mrs. Chen's establishment drunk, putting your hands on her employee. It concerns me. Jonah stepped closer. Let her go. Now. Or what? Or I'll make you. There was no heat in Jonah's voice, no anger, just absolute certainty. Marcus released Evelyn's arm and took a staggering step backward. You think you're better than me? No, I just know I'm not worse. Everyone in this town knows what you are, a nobody, a drifter who showed up with nothing and will leave with nothing. Maybe, but at least I don't hurt people for fun. Marcus's face twisted with rage. You want her? Take her. She's already used goods anyway. Came here looking for a husband and settled for scraps. Jonah moved so fast Evelyn barely saw it. One moment he was standing still, the next, his hand was fisted in Marcus's expensive coat, slamming him against the wall. Say one more word about her. Jonah said, his voice deadly quiet. And I'll throw you through that window. Marcus's bravado crumbled. You're crazy. I'm honest. Learn the difference. Jonah released him with enough force that Marcus stumbled. The drunk man scrambled for the door, throwing back one last glare before disappearing into the night. The silence that followed was deafening. Evelyn realized she was shaking. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. I could have handled it. You were handling it. I just finished it. Jonah turned to face her, and she saw something raw in his expression. Are you hurt? No, just angry. Good. Stay angry. Anger is useful. Mrs. Chen appeared from the kitchen, cleaver in hand. He gone? He's gone, Jonah confirmed. Good. Next time he shows up here, I'll handle it myself. She looked at Evelyn. You all right, girl? I'm fine. No, you're not. But you will be. Mrs. Chen pointed the cleaver at Jonah. You stay for dinner. I'm making dumplings. I should get back. I said stay. Jonah stayed. They ate in the kitchen, just the three of them. Mrs. Chen kept the conversation moving, talking about guests and town gossip and everything except what had just happened. But Evelyn noticed the way Jonah kept glancing at her as if checking to make sure she was really okay. After dinner, he walked her to her room upstairs. Thank you, Evelyn said at her door. For earlier. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. You could have just walked away. No, I couldn't have. Jonah looked down at his hands. Marcus was right about one thing. I am a drifter. Showed up here 5 years ago with nothing but a horse and a saddle. People like him will always see people like me as less than. That doesn't make him right. Doesn't make him wrong either. It absolutely makes him wrong. Evelyn's voice was fierce. You're worth 10 of Marcus Brennan. 20. And if you can't see that, then you're as much of a fool as he is. Jonah's expression shifted, surprise maybe, or something deeper. Why do you care what I think of myself? He asked. Because someone should. And clearly no one else is doing the job. A small smile tugged at his mouth, just barely. Your trouble, Evelyn Hart. Good. I'm tired of being easy. He left before she could say anything else, and Evelyn stood in her doorway, heart pounding, wondering when exactly this quiet cowboy had become someone she couldn't stop thinking about. The next morning, Sheriff Wade appeared at the boarding house. Miss Hart, he said, removing his hat. I need to ask you some questions about last night. Evelyn's stomach dropped. What about it? Marcus Brennan filed a complaint. Says Jonah Hale assaulted him. That's a lie. I still need to hear your version. Evelyn told him everything, Marcus grabbing her, threatening her, Jonah intervening. She didn't minimize Marcus's actions or exaggerate Jonah's response. Just the facts. Sheriff Wade listened, then sighed. This is a mess. Marcus started it. I know he did. But the Brennans have lawyers and Jonah has a history. What history? He got into a fight 3 years back, sent a man to the doctor. Charges were dropped, but people remember. What was the fight about? Sheriff Wade hesitated. The man was beating a woman in an alley. Jonah stopped him. Of course he did. So Jonah's being punished for helping people, Evelyn said flatly. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm just trying to keep the peace. Then talk to Marcus. Tell him to stop harassing me. I will. But Miss Hart. The sheriff's expression was genuinely concerned. The Brennans don't forget grudges. If they decide to make trouble for you or for Jonah, then we'll handle it. You sound like him. Good. After the sheriff left, Mrs. Chen appeared with 2 cups of coffee. You're making powerful enemies, she observed. I didn't ask for any of this. No one ever does. But here you are anyway. Mrs. Chen handed her a cup. Question is, what are you going to do about it? Evelyn thought about Marcus's threats, about Catherine's cruelty, about the way this town had watched her arrive and decided she was entertainment. I'm going to stay, she said, and I'm going to make them regret underestimating me. Mrs. Chen smiled. Now you sound like someone worth knowing. That afternoon, Evelyn went to Jonah's property. He was in the corral, training a young horse. Sheriff came by, she called out. Jonah's shoulders tensed. I figured he would. I told him what really happened. Won't matter. Marcus has money and lawyers. So we'll get our own lawyer. With what money? Jonah climbed over the fence. Evelyn, I appreciate the thought, but nothing. You defended me. I'm defending you. That's how this works. This isn't your fight. Yes, it is. Marcus made it my fight the moment he grabbed my arm. Evelyn stepped closer. Besides, you said I don't have to fight my battles alone. Neither do you. Jonah stared at her for a long moment. You really don't give up, do you? Not when it matters. Why does this matter to you? Because you matter to me, Evelyn thought. But she couldn't say that. Not yet. Because someone has to stand up to people like Marcus, she said instead. And I'm tired of letting bullies win. Jonah's expression softened. All right. We'll figure it out together. Together, Evelyn repeated. It felt like a promise. 2 days later, everything changed again. Evelyn was at the general store when she overheard two men talking by the feed section. Heard Hale's got a claim on the Western Territory, one said. That land's worthless, nothing but rocks and scrub. Brennan doesn't think so. He's been asking around about buying it. Why would he want it? Railroads coming through. If they lay track through that section, whoever owns it will make a fortune. Evelyn's blood went cold. She finished her shopping quickly and went straight to Jonah's property. Do you own land west of here? She asked without preamble. Jonah looked up from the wagon wheel he was fixing. About 40 acres. Why? Because Marcus Brennan wants it. The railroad's coming through. She watched realization dawn on his face, followed by something that looked like resignation. That explains it, he said quietly. Explains what? Why Marcus has suddenly decided I'm the enemy. Jonah set down his tools. He doesn't care about what happened at the boarding house. He wants my land. So the assault complaint is leverage. Make me look dangerous, maybe violent, then offer to drop the charges if I sell to him cheap. Evelyn felt fury rising in her chest. That's extortion. That's business, at least for people like Marcus. What are you going to do? Jonah looked at her, and for the first time since they'd met, she saw genuine uncertainty in his eyes. I don't know, he admitted. If I fight this, it could get ugly, and you're already caught in the middle. I'm not going anywhere. Evelyn, I said I'm not going anywhere. She moved closer. You stood up for me. Now I'm standing up for you. End of discussion. Jonah exhaled slowly. You're the most stubborn woman I've ever met. I'll take that as a compliment. It was. They stood there, the afternoon sun casting long shadows. Two people who'd been knocked down by life learning how to stand back up together. And somewhere in town, Marcus Brennan was planning his next move, not realizing that this time he wasn't facing a lonely woman with nowhere to go. He was facing two people who'd learned that together they were stronger than anything he could throw at them. He was facing two people who'd learned that together they were stronger than anything he could throw at them, though neither of them expected his next move to come so fast. The following morning, a lawyer arrived at the boarding house with papers. Miss Evelyn Hart. The man was thin, severe, with spectacles that caught the light like ice. Yes. I'm Theodore Walsh, attorney for Marcus Brennan. My client wishes to make a formal offer on Mr. Jonah Hale's property. Since you're known to be close with Mr. Hale, he thought you might serve as intermediary. Evelyn kept her voice steady. Mr. Hale can receive offers directly. He doesn't need an intermediary. My client believes Mr. Hale might be more amenable to negotiation if the offer came through someone he trusts. Walsh handed her an envelope. $2,000 for 40 acres. Well above market value for that particular land. Because the railroad's coming through. Walsh's expression didn't change. I'm sure I don't know what you mean. I'm sure you do. Evelyn took the envelope but didn't open it. I'll give this to Mr. Hale, but I can already tell you his answer. Can you? He's not selling. Everyone sells, Miss Hart. It's just a matter of price. Walsh tipped his hat. My client is prepared to be generous. I'd advise Mr. Hale to consider carefully. Opportunities like this don't come twice. After he left, Mrs. Chen emerged from the kitchen where she'd been listening. $2,000 is a lot of money, she said carefully. It's not about the money. It's always about the money. Not for Jonah. Evelyn turned the envelope over in her hands. That land is all he has. If he sells it, he's got nothing tying him here. Maybe that's what he wants. No, he wants to stay. He's just afraid to admit it. Mrs. Chen studied her. You care about him. It wasn't a question. I do, Evelyn admitted. Does he know? I don't think so. Then maybe you should tell him before Marcus destroys everything. Evelyn found Jonah at his property that afternoon. He was repairing the barn roof, his shirt soaked with sweat despite the cool breeze. "You have a visitor this morning?" he called down. "How did you know?" "Walsh's horse was tied outside the boarding house. Figured he'd find you eventually." Evelyn held up the envelope. "He made an offer. $2,000. Jonah climbed down the ladder. "That's more than I paid for the land." "Because Marcus knows what it's really worth." "So do I." Jonah took the envelope without opening it. "Tell him no." "That's it. You don't even want to think about it." "There's nothing to think about." "Jonah, $2,000 could change your life." "It could, but selling to Marcus Brennan would end it." He tossed the envelope onto a workbench. "That land belonged to a man named Samuel Porter. Good man. Fair man. He gave me a job when I first came here, let me work off the price of the land instead of demanding cash I didn't have. When he died, he left it to me in his will. Said I'd earned it through honest work." Evelyn hadn't known any of this. "Samuel was the only person who gave a damn about me when I arrived here," Jonah continued. "I'm not selling his legacy to a man who treats people like garbage. Even if it costs you everything." "What's everything? Money. Marcus already has that. Respect, I never had it to begin with." Jonah looked at her directly. "The only thing I have is my word. And my word is that land doesn't get sold to Marcus Brennan. Not for 2,000, not for 20,000. Then he'll come after you harder. Let him." "Jonah." "I mean it, Evelyn. I've spent 5 years building something here. It's not much, but it's mine. I'm not handing it over to a bully because he wants to get rich off a railroad." His voice softened. "And I'm not running away. Not anymore." "What were you running from?" The question hung between them. Jonah turned away, reaching for his tools. "That's a story for another time." "We might not have another time. Marcus is escalating. Then I'll deal with it when it comes." Evelyn grabbed his arm, forcing him to face her. "Why won't you let me help you?" "Because you've already helped me more than you know." "How? By washing dishes and making beds. By being here. By not running when things got hard. By standing in front of Catherine Whitmore and Marcus and half this town and refusing to back down." His hand covered hers. "You make me think maybe staying is worth it." Evelyn's breath caught. "Jonah." A gunshot cracked through the air. Both of them dove for cover. Jonah pulled Evelyn behind the workbench, his body shielding hers. "Stay down," he ordered. Another shot. This one hit the barn wall, splintering wood. "Someone's shooting at us," Evelyn said, her voice surprisingly calm. "I noticed." Jonah peered around the workbench. A third shot sent him ducking back. "Can you see who it is?" "Too far away, but they're on the ridge east side." "What do? We wait for them to run out of ammunition or give up." Jonah's jaw was tight. "Or for Sheriff Wade to show up and do his job." They waited. 5 minutes. 10. No more shots came. Finally, Jonah stood slowly. "I think they're gone." Evelyn stood on shaking legs. "That was Marcus, wasn't it? Or someone he hired." "This has to stop." "It will. One way or another." Sheriff Wade arrived an hour later, brought by one of Jonah's neighbors who'd heard the shots. "Anyone hurt?" the sheriff asked. "No," Jonah said. "But someone fired at least 3 shots from the eastern ridge." "Did you see who?" "Too far away." Sheriff Wade examined the bullet holes in the barn wall. "I'll ride out there, see if I can find tracks." "It was Marcus," Evelyn said. "Miss Hart, I can't arrest a man without proof. So what, we wait until someone actually gets killed? I'm doing what I can within the law. The law seems pretty convenient for people like Marcus Brennan." Sheriff Wade's expression hardened. "I don't like what's happening any more than you do. But unless you have evidence, there's nothing I can do." After he left, Jonah asked Evelyn to stay at the boarding house for a few days. "I'm not hiding," she protested. "I'm not asking you to hide. I'm asking you to be somewhere safer than out here alone with me." "You're alone out here." I can handle myself. So can I. Evelyn. His voice was strained. If something happened to you because of me, nothing's going to happen to me. You don't know that. Neither do you. But I'm not leaving you out here by yourself. She crossed her arms. We're in this together, remember? That was before someone started shooting. It doesn't change anything. Jonah stared at her frustration and something else warring in his expression. You're impossible. You already told me that. I'm telling you again. Good. Maybe eventually it'll sink in. Despite the tension, Jonah's mouth twitched. You're going to get us both killed. Or we'll survive and you'll finally admit you're glad I stayed. I'm already glad you stayed. That's the problem. The admission hung between them, raw and honest. Before Evelyn could respond, Mrs. Chen appeared on horseback, riding faster than Evelyn had ever seen the older woman move. You need to come back to town, Mrs. Chen called out. Now. What happened? Catherine Whitmore and her friends are at the boarding house. They're telling my guests that I'm harboring an immoral woman and that respectable people should find other accommodations. Evelyn felt cold fury settle in her chest. How many guests have left? 3 so far. If this keeps up, I'll lose my business. Then let's go stop it. They rode back to town together, Jonah on his horse beside them. By the time they arrived, a small crowd had gathered outside the boarding house. Catherine stood on the porch, flanked by 2 other women Evelyn recognized from the general store incident. This establishment has been compromised, Catherine was announcing. Mrs. Chen is providing shelter to a woman of questionable character who has caused nothing but trouble since arriving here. Funny? Evelyn called out, dismounting. I thought trouble was watching a man humiliate someone and smiling about it. Catherine's face flushed. How dare you? How dare I defend myself, refuse to disappear quietly? Evelyn walked up the porch steps. You want to ruin Mrs. Chen's business because she gave me a job when no one else would. Because she judged me on my work instead of your fiancé's cruelty. Marcus was teaching you a lesson about propriety. Marcus was entertaining his friends at my expense. There's a difference. One of the women beside Catherine spoke up. You came here to trap a husband. I came here because a man wrote me letters promising a future and then publicly destroyed me for sport. Evelyn's voice carried across the crowd. If that makes me improper, then fine, but it makes him a coward, and it makes all of you complicit for defending him. Someone in the crowd murmured agreement. Catherine's eyes flashed. You're trying to turn people against Marcus. I don't have to try. He's doing that himself. Evelyn gestured to the crowd. How many of you have been on the wrong side of Marcus Brennan's deals? How many have lost money or land or opportunities because he manipulated situations to benefit himself? More murmuring. Evelyn could see people exchanging glances. That's slander, Catherine hissed. It's the truth. Ask Mr. Peterson about the grain contract Marcus backed out of last year. Ask the Johnsons about the water rights he claimed belonged to his family. Ask anyone in this town who's actually done business with him instead of just admiring his money. Catherine stepped closer, her voice dropping to something venomous. You think you're so clever, but you're nothing. A charity case that Jonah Hale took pity on. And when he gets tired of you, and he will, you'll have nothing again. Maybe, Evelyn said calmly. But at least I'll still have my self-respect. What will you have when Marcus treats you the way he treated me? Catherine raised her hand to slap her. Jonah caught her wrist. Don't, he said quietly. The entire crowd went silent. Catherine tried to pull free. Let go of me. When you step back. You're defending her. I'm stopping you from doing something you'll regret. Jonah released her wrist. Go home, Miss Whitmore. This isn't worth whatever point you're trying to make. She's ruining everything. No, a voice called from the crowd. Your fiancé is. Evelyn turned. Mr. Peterson, the merchant, stood with his arms crossed. Marcus Brennan has been squeezing this town for years, Peterson continued. Most of us were too afraid to say it. But Miss Hart's right. He backed out of our grain contract and cost me $200. Said it was bad grain when it wasn't. Just wanted to renegotiate after prices went up. He did the same to me with lumber, another man added. Found some clause buried in the contract and refused to pay the agreed price. More voices joined in. Story after story of Marcus's manipulations, his broken promises, his casual cruelty disguised as business. Catherine's face went white. You're all liars. We're all people he's cheated, Peterson said, and we're tired of pretending otherwise. Catherine fled down the steps, her friends scrambling after her. The crowd began to disperse, people talking amongst themselves. The energy shifted from hostility to something else. Something that felt almost like solidarity. Mrs. Chen touched Evelyn's shoulder. That took courage. That took stupidity. I just made an enemy of the most powerful family in town. You made allies of everyone else. Mrs. Chen nodded toward the people gathering in small groups still talking. Sometimes that matters more. Jonah appeared at Evelyn's side. You all right? I'm fine. Though I think I just declared war. We declared war. Together. He paused. You were right, by the way. About what? About speaking up. About not staying quiet just because it's easier. His eyes held hers. About everything. Before Evelyn could respond, a rider approached a stranger in railroad company clothes. Looking for Jonah Hale, the man called out. That's me. The rider dismounted. Name's William Grant. I'm with the Western Pacific Railroad. Heard you own property in the Western Territory. I do. We're surveying routes for the new line. Your land sits right in the middle of our preferred path. Grant pulled out a map. We'd like to discuss purchasing an easement, or potentially the entire property if you're willing to sell. Evelyn's heart sank. This was exactly what Marcus had been waiting for, official confirmation that the railroad wanted the land. What are you offering? Jonah asked. For an easement, $500. For the full property, we could go as high as $3,000. $3,000. More than Marcus's offer. Life-changing money. The crowd had gone quiet again, everyone watching to see what Jonah would do. I'll need to think about it, Jonah said. Of course, I'll be at the hotel for the next 3 days if you want to discuss terms. Grant tipped his hat and left. Mrs. Chen squeezed Evelyn's arm. That's good news. Is it? $3,000, girl. That's security, a future. But Evelyn was watching Jonah's face, seeing the conflict there, and she knew it wasn't that simple. That evening, after the guests had been fed and the kitchen cleaned, Evelyn found Jonah sitting on the back steps of the boarding house. She sat beside him without asking permission. You should sell, she said. You told me not to sell to Marcus. I told you not to sell to Marcus. The railroad is different. Is it? They're offering fair value. They're not trying to manipulate you, and $3,000 could change everything for you. Jonah was quiet for a long moment. Samuel Porter fought the railroad once. 10 years ago, when they wanted to put a line through his cattle pasture. He refused to sell. Said some things were worth more than money. What happened? They rerouted. Cost them time and money, but they did it. Because Samuel was right that pasture was his livelihood. Selling it would have destroyed everything he'd built. But this is different. You're not running cattle. You're just existing. Jonah's smile was sad. Yeah, that's the problem. I don't have a legacy to protect like Samuel did. Just 40 acres I've been too stubborn to leave. Then why stay? He looked at her, then really looked at her, and Evelyn saw something in his eyes that made her breath catch. Because for the first time in 5 years, he said quietly, I have a reason to. Evelyn's heart hammered against her ribs. Jonah, I'm not asking for anything, he continued. I know you've been through enough. I know the last thing you need is another man making promises. But I need you to understand selling that land means I can leave. And I don't want to leave. Not anymore. Because of the land. Because of you. The words hung in the air between them, honest and terrifying and true. Evelyn reached for his hand. Then don't sell. $3,000, Evelyn. I don't care about the money. You should. You could take half and start over somewhere new. Somewhere people don't know about Marcus or any of this. I don't want to start over somewhere new. Her grip tightened on his hand. I want to stay here, build something here, with people who matter. With me? With you. Jonah turned his hand over, lacing his fingers through hers. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. They sat there in the fading light, hands clasped, two people who'd been knocked down by life, finally finding solid ground in each other. Neither of them saw Marcus Brennan watching from across the street, his expression twisted with rage. Neither of them knew he was already planning his final move, one that would force them to fight, not just for the land, but for everything they'd begun to build together. Neither of them knew he was already planning his final move, one that would force them to fight, not just for the land, but for everything they'd begun to build together. That move came the next morning, delivered by Sheriff Wade, with an expression that said he hated every word he was about to speak. Jonah Hale, I'm placing you under arrest for assault and battery against Marcus Brennan. Evelyn dropped the plate she was holding. It shattered on the kitchen floor. What? She demanded. This is insane. Marcus was the one who... I have a sworn statement from Marcus and two witnesses who claim Jonah threatened him with bodily harm and slammed him against a wall without provocation. That's a lie, Evelyn said. Marcus was drunk. He grabbed me. Jonah was defending me. Do you have witnesses? Mrs. Chen was there. Mrs. Chen was in the kitchen, Sheriff Wade interrupted. She didn't see what happened in the dining room. Marcus's witnesses did. His witnesses are lying. That's for a judge to decide? The sheriff looked at Jonah. I'm sorry, Hale. I don't have a choice here. Jonah stood slowly. It's all right, Sheriff. I'll come peacefully. The hell you will, Evelyn said. This is Marcus manipulating the law to get what he wants. I know that. You know that. Doesn't change the situation. Jonah met her eyes. Don't fight this right now. It'll only make things worse. Worse than you being arrested for defending me. Yes, if you interfere, he'll find a way to charge you too. Sheriff Wade cleared his throat. Miss Hart, he's right. Let me do my job. Evelyn watched helplessly as they led Jonah away in handcuffs. Mrs. Chen appeared beside her, gripping her arm. This is wrong, Evelyn whispered. Yes, but getting yourself arrested won't fix it. Then what will... We find those witnesses and prove they're lying. Evelyn spent the rest of the morning hunting down information. The witnesses were two ranch hands who worked for Marcus's father. Neither would speak to her directly, but she learned enough from town gossip to know they'd been paid to testify. $50 each, Mr. Peterson told her quietly. Everyone knows it. No one can prove it. There has to be something we can do. Get a good lawyer. That's the only way. But lawyers cost money neither Evelyn nor Jonah had. That afternoon, William Grant from the railroad found Evelyn at the boarding house. I heard about Mr. Hale's situation, he said. Unfortunate timing. Unfortunate timing or deliberate sabotage. Grant's eyebrows rose. You think Marcus Brennan orchestrated this? I know he did. He wants Jonah's land. When Jonah wouldn't sell, Marcus decided to force his hand. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth. Evelyn crossed her arms. Marcus offered $2,000 for that land before you arrived. Now that you've offered $3,000, he's desperate. If Jonah's in jail, if he's facing criminal charges, he'll be forced to sell just to pay legal fees. Grant was quiet for a moment, studying her. You care about him. That's none of your business. It is if it affects our negotiations. Grant pulled out a card. This is the name of a lawyer in the territorial capital. Good man. Fair rates. Tell him I sent you. Why would you help us? Because I don't like bullies. And because if Marcus Brennan gets that land, he'll hold it hostage and drive up the price when we need it most. Grant tipped his hat. Besides, Mr. Hale seems like a decent man. Those are rare, worth protecting. After he left, Evelyn stared at the card in her hand. The lawyer's office was 2 days' ride away. She'd have to leave immediately. Mrs. Chen appeared with a traveling bag already packed. Go. I can't just leave. You can and you will. I'll manage the boarding house. You get that lawyer and bring him back here to fix this mess. What if something happens while I'm gone? Then I'll handle it. Mrs. Chen pressed the bag into Evelyn's hands. You said you wanted to fight for him. This is how you fight. Evelyn left within the hour, riding one of Mrs. Chen's horses toward the capital. She pushed hard, stopping only when the horse needed rest, and reached the territorial capital by late afternoon the next day. The lawyer's name was Samuel Pierce. He was older, gray-haired, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. William Grant sent you, he said after Evelyn explained the situation. That's the only reason I'm listening. Will you take the case? Depends. Can you pay? No, but the railroad will if you help clear Jonah's name. Pierce leaned back in his chair. You're asking me to take a case against the Brennan family based on a promise from a railroad surveyor. I'm asking you to help an innocent man who's being railroaded by a rich bully who thinks money makes him untouchable. And you think I can win? I think you're the only chance we have. Pierce studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled. I like you, Miss Hart. You remind me of my daughter. She's got the same stubborn streak. Is that a yes? It's a maybe. I need to review the case details, talk to witnesses, see what we're actually dealing with. He stood. But if what you're saying is true, if Marcus Brennan is using the legal system to steal land, then yes, I'll take the case. Relief flooded through Evelyn. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This won't be easy. The Brennans have influence. They have money. They have lawyers who've been practicing dirty tricks longer than you've been alive. But you're better, Pierce laughed. I'm more stubborn. There's a difference. They rode back together, arriving in town 3 days after Evelyn had left. She went straight to the jail. Jonah looked thinner, tired, but his eyes lit up when he saw her. You left, he said through the cell bars. I came back. Evelyn gripped the bars. I brought a lawyer, Samuel Pierce. He's good. How are you paying him? The railroad's covering it. William Grant arranged it. Why would Grant do that? Because he doesn't want Marcus to get the land either, and because he thinks you're worth helping. She lowered her voice. How are you holding up? I'm fine. You're a terrible liar. So are you. Jonah reached through the bars and took her hand. You shouldn't have spent money on a lawyer. It's not my money. And yes, I should have. You defended me. Now I'm defending you. This is different. This is legal trouble. If we lose, we won't lose. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise I won't stop fighting until you're free. Evelyn squeezed his hand. Marcus thinks he can break us by separating us. He's wrong. Jonah's expression softened. I don't deserve you. Yes, you do. You just don't believe it yet. Before Jonah could respond, Marcus Brennan appeared in the hallway with Sheriff Wade. Well, well, Marcus said. The devoted girlfriend visits her criminal. Evelyn turned slowly. He's not a criminal. And I'm not his girlfriend. Could have fooled me. Heard you rode 2 days to fetch a lawyer. Marcus's smile was poisonous. Must be nice having friends in high places. Though I wonder how long that'll last when people realize you're just a gold digger who moved from me to Hale. I never wanted your gold, Marcus. I wanted honesty. Turns out neither of you had any to give. Marcus's face darkened. Watch your mouth. Or what? You'll have me arrested too. Go ahead. At least then people will see exactly what kind of man you are. They already know what kind of man I am. Rich, powerful, connected. Marcus stepped closer to the cell. And you're nobody. A woman who came here chasing a fantasy and ended up washing dishes for pennies. Better to wash dishes honestly than steal land dishonestly. I'm not stealing anything. I'm making a legitimate business offer. You're manipulating the legal system to force a sale. Prove it. I will. Marcus laughed. With what a lawyer you can't afford. Witnesses who don't exist. Good luck with that. He turned to Jonah. Last chance, Hale. Sell me the land for 2,000. I'll drop the charges and we all move on. No. Then you'll rot in this cell until trial. And when you lose, and you will lose, you'll go to prison for assault. By the time you get out, I'll own your land anyway through a tax sale. You really think you've thought of everything? Jonah said quietly. I have. Then you're not as smart as you think you are. Marcus's smile vanished. What's that supposed to mean? It means you're so focused on winning that you forgot to consider what losing looks like. And you're about to find out. Threatening me won't help your case. I'm not threatening you. I'm just telling you the truth. Jonah's voice was steady, calm, absolutely certain. You've made enemies of half this town. You've lied, cheated, and manipulated your way through life thinking your father's money would protect you. But money doesn't buy loyalty. And when this goes to trial, every person you've ever wronged is going to remember. No one will testify against me. You sure about that? For the first time, Marcus looked uncertain. Get out of my sight, he snapped, turning on his heel and leaving. Sheriff Wade exhaled slowly. That was stupid, Hale. Maybe, but it felt good. After the sheriff left, Evelyn whispered, Do you really think people will testify? I don't know, but Marcus doesn't know either. And right now, doubt is all we've got. The trial was set for the following week. Samuel Pierce worked fast interviewing witnesses, gathering statements, building a case. But Marcus's lawyers were working faster. They're filing motions to exclude evidence, Pierce told Evelyn, trying to prevent us from bringing up Marcus's past business dealings. Can they do that? They can try. Whether the judge allows it depends on how we frame the argument. What does that mean? It means we need to prove that Marcus's character is relevant to this case, that his history of manipulation establishes a pattern that makes his current accusations suspect. How do we do that? We get people to talk, on the record, under oath. Evelyn spent the next 3 days going door to door, talking to everyone Marcus had ever wronged. Some refused to get involved, but others, Mr. Peterson, the Johnsons, a widow named Sarah Hastings, who'd lost her farm to Marcus's manipulations, agreed to testify. He took everything from me, Mrs. Hastings said, her voice shaking. Said my husband had borrowed money he never borrowed, produced a contract with a forged signature. By the time I proved it was fake, I'd already lost the farm to pay legal fees. Will you tell that to the judge? I will, but I'm scared. The Brennans have power. So do we, Evelyn said. We have the truth. The truth doesn't always win. No, but staying silent guarantees we lose. Mrs. Hastings nodded slowly. All right, I'll testify. The day before the trial, Catherine Whitmore appeared at the boarding house. Evelyn was hanging laundry when Catherine's carriage pulled up. She braced herself for another confrontation. But Catherine looked different, smaller somehow, less certain. Miss Hart, she said quietly, may I speak with you? About what? About Marcus. Evelyn set down the laundry basket. I'm listening. Catherine twisted her hands together. I know what he did to you, the letters, the bet, all of it. You knew before I arrived. No, I knew after. He told me a week after you came, laughed about it like it was funny. And you stayed with him anyway. I thought... Catherine's voice broke. I thought if I ignored it, if I proved I was better than you, he'd forget about it and we'd move forward. How did that work out? He proposed last week. Gave me a ring worth more than most people make in a year. Catherine pulled off her glove. Her ring finger was bare. I gave it back this morning. Evelyn stared. Why? Because he did the same thing to me that he did to you. Different method, same result. Catherine's eyes filled with tears. He bet his friends he could marry the richest girl in the territory before his 30th birthday. I wasn't a person to him. I was a prize. Despite everything, Evelyn felt a flicker of sympathy. I'm sorry, she said. Don't be. I was awful to you. I helped him destroy you because I thought it made me special. Catherine wiped her eyes. I came here to tell you I'll testify. About the bet. About the witnesses he paid. About everything. Why would you do that? Because you were right. At the general store when you asked what I'd won, I didn't win anything. I just became another person he manipulated. Catherine straightened her shoulders. And I'm tired of letting him win. The trial began on a Thursday morning in the town's makeshift courthouse. Judge Aldridge was a stern man, known for fairness, but also for impatience with dramatics. Marcus's lawyer, a slick man named Hartwell, opened with confidence. Your Honor, this is a simple case. Marcus Brennan was assaulted in a public establishment by Jonah Hale. We have witnesses. We have evidence. The defendant's guilt is clear. Samuel Pierce stood slowly. Your Honor, this is indeed a simple case, but not in the way Mr. Hartwell suggests. This is a case of a powerful man using the legal system to steal land from someone who won't be bullied. That's slander, Hartwell objected. It's context, Pierce corrected. And I intend to prove it. The first day was technical witnesses describing what they'd seen Pierce dismantling their stories piece by piece. One of the ranch hands admitted under cross-examination that Marcus had helped him remember details of the incident. Helped you remember or told you what to say, Pierce pressed. I don't know the difference. That's the problem. The second day was when everything changed. Mrs. Hastings testified about her farm. Mr. Peterson about the grain contract. 3 other people about various business dealings where Marcus had lied, cheated, or manipulated. Objection, Hartwell kept saying. Irrelevant to the current case. It establishes pattern, Pierce argued. It shows that Marcus Brennan has a history of using legal mechanisms to get what he wants regardless of honesty or fairness. Judge Aldridge allowed it. Then Catherine took the stand. The courtroom went silent as she described the bet about marrying her. Marcus's face turned purple. He paid 2 men $50 each to lie about what happened at the boarding house, Catherine said clearly. I was there when he gave them the money. I thought he was just protecting himself. Now I realize he was manufacturing evidence. You lying? Marcus started to stand. Sit down, Mr. Brennan, Judge Aldridge ordered. Catherine continued. He told me that if Jonah Hale went to prison, he'd be forced to sell his land cheap to pay legal fees. Marcus planned to buy it for a fraction of its value and then resell it to the railroad for 5 times what he paid. The courtroom erupted. Hartwell was shouting objections. Pierce was demanding the charges be dismissed. Sheriff Wade was trying to restore order. Judge Aldridge banged his gavel until silence fell. Miss Whitmore, the judge said. Are you saying you have direct knowledge that Marcus Brennan paid witnesses to provide false testimony in this case? Yes, Your Honor. And you're willing to swear to this under oath? I already have, Your Honor. Marcus's lawyer looked like he'd been punched. Judge Aldridge turned to Marcus. Mr. Brennan, stand up. Marcus stood, his confidence finally cracking. These are extremely serious allegations, the judge said. If proven true, you could face charges of witness tampering, perjury, and fraud. Do you wish to respond? Marcus opened his mouth, closed it, looked at his lawyer. Hartwell whispered something in his ear. I invoke my right to remain silent, Marcus finally said. Very well. Judge Aldridge looked at the prosecutor. In light of this testimony, I'm dismissing all charges against Jonah Hale. Furthermore, I'm ordering an investigation into Marcus Brennan's conduct. He banged his gavel. Mr. Hale, you're free to go. The courtroom exploded again, this time with cheers. Evelyn pushed through the crowd to reach Jonah. He grabbed her hands, pulled her close. It's over, she said. Not yet. Marcus still has lawyers. He'll fight the investigation. Let him fight. We won the battle that mattered. Jonah looked at her like she'd hung the stars. You did this. We did this, together. Outside the courthouse, Marcus was surrounded by his legal team, their voices low and urgent. He looked up, saw Evelyn and Jonah, and something ugly twisted across his face. This isn't over, he called out. Yes, it is, Evelyn called back. You lost Marcus, Accept it. I'll destroy you both. You already tried. It didn't work. Marcus took a step forward. Sheriff Wade stepped between them. Go home, Brennan, the sheriff said, before I arrest you for real. Marcus left, but his parting look promised this wasn't finished. Evelyn didn't care. For the first time since stepping off that train months ago, she felt like she could breathe. For the first time since stepping off that train months ago, she felt like she could breathe. But that breath caught in her throat when she saw the smoke rising from Jonah's property the next morning. They rode hard, arriving to find the barn engulfed in flames. Jonah's horses were screaming in the corral, panicked by the smoke and heat. Get the horses out, Jonah shouted, already running toward them. Evelyn grabbed buckets, started hauling water from the well. Other people were arriving now, neighbors, townspeople, who'd heard the commotion. Mr. Peterson appeared with more buckets. Mrs. Chen arrived with blankets to beat down smaller flames. It took 2 hours to get the fire under control. By then, the barn was a smoking ruin. Sheriff Wade examined the site, his expression grim. Kerosene. Someone set this deliberately. Marcus, Evelyn said. Probably, but I can't prove it without witnesses. So he just gets away with it. Unless someone saw him here last night, yes. Jonah stood staring at the remains of his barn, his face unreadable. Evelyn approached carefully. Jonah, I'm fine. You're not fine. Your barn is gone. Barns can be rebuilt. That's not the point. Marcus is escalating. First the shooting, now this. What's next? Jonah turned to face her. Nothing. Because I'm selling the land. Evelyn felt like she'd been slapped. What? I'm selling to the railroad, taking their offer, $3,000. Because of the barn. Because this won't stop until I give Marcus what he wants. And I'm tired of fighting. No. Evelyn grabbed his arm. You said that land was Samuel Porter's legacy. You said you wouldn't sell it to Marcus no matter what. I'm not selling it to Marcus. I'm selling to the railroad. Because Marcus burned down your barn. Don't you see? He wins either way. He wanted you gone, and now you're leaving. I'm not leaving. I'll have money to rebuild somewhere else. We're another town where you know no one. Where you start over again with nothing but a horse and suspicion. Evelyn's voice cracked. You told me you were tired of running. You told me you wanted to stay. That was before someone tried to burn me out. So you're just giving up. I'm being practical. No, you're being afraid. The words came out harsher than Evelyn intended, but she couldn't take them back. You're afraid that if you stay and fight, you might actually have something worth losing, so you're running before that can happen. Jonah's jaw tightened. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You've spent 5 years keeping everyone at arm's length because it's safer. Because if you don't let anyone in, you can't get hurt. But that's not living, Jonah. That's just existing. What do you want from me? I want you to fight. I want you to stop acting like you're not worth defending. I want you to believe that staying matters, that this place matters, that... She stopped herself. That what? That I matter. Evelyn's voice dropped to barely a whisper. That we matter. Jonah stared at her, something breaking open in his expression. You do matter, he said roughly. That's why I'm selling. So you don't get hurt because of me. I'm already hurt. Watching you give up hurts more than anything Marcus could do. Before Jonah could respond, William Grant approached. Terrible thing about the barn, Grant said. I heard what happened. I'm accepting your offer, Jonah said abruptly. $3,000 for the land. Grant looked between them, clearly sensing the tension. Are you certain yesterday you seemed... I'm certain. Then I'll have the papers drawn up. Grant hesitated. Though I should mention the railroad decided we don't actually need to buy the full property, just the easement. $500 for the right to run track across a corner of your land. You'd keep ownership of everything else. Jonah froze. What? We surveyed more carefully. The track only needs to cross about 5 acres in the northwest corner. You could keep the rest, build where you want, use it, however you see fit. Grant pulled out a revised map. Honestly, buying the whole property was overkill. This way works better for everyone. When did you decide this? 2 days ago. I was going to tell you after the trial, but things got complicated. Grant studied Jonah's face. Does this change your decision? Evelyn held her breath. Jonah looked at the map, at the burned barn, at Evelyn, then at the land itself, 40 acres that Samuel Porter had trusted him with. Yes, he said finally. I'll take the easement. Keep the land. Relief flooded through Evelyn so powerfully her knees almost buckled. You're sure? Grant asked. I'm sure. Jonah's voice was steady now, certain. This is my home. I'm not leaving it. After Grant left, Jonah turned to Evelyn. You were right, he said. I was afraid. Still am, if I'm honest. Of what? Of this. Of you. Of wanting something so badly that losing it would destroy me. He took a step closer. But running away destroys me too. Just slower. So what are you going to do? Stay. Fight. Build something worth protecting. He reached for her hand. If you'll help me. Always. They stood there in the ashes of the barn, holding hands, two people who'd been broken by cruelty, learning how to build something stronger from the pieces. But Marcus wasn't finished yet. 3 days later, a lawyer arrived with foreclosure papers. Marcus's father owned the bank, and apparently Jonah had missed a loan payment. I don't have a loan, Jonah said, staring at the papers. According to our records, you borrowed $500 2 years ago for property improvements. That's not possible. I've never borrowed money from anyone. Samuel Pierce examined the documents. This signature doesn't match your handwriting. Because it's not my signature. Then it's fraud. Pierce looked up. The Brennans are getting desperate. They're forging documents now. Can we prove it's fake? We can try. But it'll take time, and in the meantime, they can proceed with foreclosure proceedings. Evelyn felt rage building in her chest. This has to stop. It will, Pierce said, when we prove the forgery. But that could take weeks. We don't have weeks. They're counting on that. That evening, Evelyn went to the one person who might actually have the power to stop Marcus, his father, Robert Brennan. The Brennan mansion sat on the hill overlooking town, massive and imposing. Evelyn walked up to the front door and knocked. A servant answered. Deliveries go to the back. I'm not making a delivery. I need to speak with Mr. Brennan, Sr. Mr. Brennan doesn't take unscheduled meetings. Tell him Evelyn Hart is here. Tell him it's about his son committing fraud. The servant's eyes widened. He disappeared inside. 5 minutes later, Robert Brennan appeared older than Marcus, gray-haired, with the same sharp features but harder eyes. You have 2 minutes, he said. Your son forged loan documents to foreclose on Jonah Hale's property. I have proof. Show me. Evelyn handed him copies of the documents Pierce had made. Compare that signature to any legitimate document Jonah has signed. They don't match. Robert examined the papers, his expression unreadable. Even if this is true, which I'm not conceding, why would I care? Because your son has been using your name, your bank, and your reputation to commit crimes. He paid witnesses to lie in court. He committed arson. He's systematically destroying your family's credibility. My family's credibility is solid. Is it? Ask anyone in town what they think of the Brennan name right now. Ask them if they trust doing business with a family that cheats, lies, and destroys people for profit. Robert's jaw tightened. You're very bold for someone who has nothing. I have the truth. That's more than your son has. The truth is Marcus is protecting family interests. The truth is Marcus is a coward who can't accept losing, and if you don't stop him, he'll destroy everything you've built. Robert stepped closer, his voice dropping to something dangerous. You think you can threaten me. I'm not threatening you. I'm offering you a choice. Evelyn met his eyes without flinching. Stop your son's harassment, drop the fraudulent foreclosure, and walk away. Or I'll make sure every newspaper in the territory knows the Brennan family commits fraud to steal land from honest people. No one would believe you. Catherine Whitmore would. She's already testified against Marcus once. I'm sure she'd be happy to do it again. along with everyone else he's cheated over the years. Robert's expression shifted just slightly, but enough to tell Evelyn she'd struck a nerve. "You have spirit," he said finally. "I'll give you that. I have truth. Spirit is just what's left when everything else is taken away." Robert studied her for a long moment. Then he called out, "Jenkins!" The servant appeared. "Bring me the file on Jonathan Hale's supposed loan." Jenkins hesitated. "Sir Mr. Marcus specifically said, 'I don't care what my son said. Bring me the file, now.'" The servant disappeared. Robert gestured for Evelyn to sit in one of the parlor chairs. She remained standing. "Suit yourself," Robert said. Jenkins returned with a folder. Robert opened it, examined the contents, and his face darkened. "This is my son's handwriting," he said quietly, "trying to forge someone else's signature. So you'll drop the foreclosure. I'll do more than that." Robert closed the folder. "I'll have a conversation with Marcus about his future, one that doesn't involve running businesses he's clearly not equipped to manage. And Jonah's land is his. No further interference from this family. You have my word." "Forgive me if I don't trust the word of a Brennan." Robert actually smiled at that. "Smart woman. I'll have my lawyer draft a legal agreement. Full withdrawal of all claims against Mr. Hale's property signed and notarized. Will that suffice?" "It's a start." "You drive a hard bargain, Miss Hart. I learned from the best. Your son taught me that bullies only understand strength. My son is a fool, but he's my fool." Robert's expression hardened. However, family loyalty only extends so far. He's crossed lines even I won't defend. After Evelyn left, she went straight to Jonah's property, where he was clearing debris from the barn fire. "I went to see Robert Brennan," she said. Jonah dropped the charred beam he was holding. "You did what?" "I confronted him about the forged loan documents. He's dropping the foreclosure." "Evelyn, that was dangerous?" "It worked. Marcus is done. His father is cutting him off." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do. I saw it in Robert's face. He's protecting the family name and Marcus has become a liability." Jonah pulled her into a fierce embrace. "You're insane." "I'm effective. There's a difference." He pulled back, holding her at arm's length. "You could have been hurt." "I wasn't. And now it's really over. Until Marcus finds another way to—" "There is no other way. His father shut him down. The town knows what he is. Catherine exposed him. He lost." Evelyn gripped Jonah's arms. "It's over. We won." Jonah searched her face, looking for doubt or fear. He found neither. "When did you become so fearless?" he asked. "The day I decided to stop letting fear make my decisions. The day you showed me it was possible to stand up and survive." "I didn't do that. You did." "We did it together." Over the next 2 weeks, things shifted in ways neither of them expected. Robert Brennan delivered the promised legal agreement, officially releasing all claims against Jonah's property. Marcus disappeared. Some said he'd gone east. Others claimed his father had sent him to manage a failing mine in Nevada as punishment. Catherine Whitmore started volunteering at Mrs. Chen's boarding house, working alongside Evelyn without drama or competition. They weren't friends exactly, but they'd developed a mutual respect born from shared experience. "Thank you," Catherine said one afternoon while folding linens, "for not hating me." "I did hate you," Evelyn admitted. "For a while. I deserved it." "Maybe, but hate takes energy I'd rather spend elsewhere." Catherine smiled slightly. "You're kinder than I would be." "No, just tired of carrying grudges. They're heavy." The railroad began construction on the track easement, and William Grant paid Jonah $500 as promised. Jonah used it to start rebuilding the barn, this time with help from half the town. Mr. Peterson donated lumber at cost. The Johnsons brought tools. Even Sheriff Wade showed up with his sons to help raise the frame. "Never thought I'd see the day," Mrs. Chen observed, watching the men work. "This town coming together for something good instead of tearing something down." "People are better than we give them credit for," Evelyn said. They just need a reason to show it. You gave them that reason. You and Jonah both. The barn was finished in 3 weeks, bigger than the old one, sturdier, with room for expansion. On the day they completed it, Jonah stood in the doorway staring at what they'd built. Samuel would have liked this, he said quietly. Tell me about him, Evelyn said. The real story. Jonah was silent for a long moment. Then he started talking. I was running when I came here. From mistakes, from failure, from a life that had fallen apart. Samuel gave me work when I had nothing to offer but my hands. Didn't ask questions. Didn't judge. Just said if I worked hard, I'd earn my keep. Jonah touched the barn wall. He taught me that a man's worth isn't measured by where he's been, but by what he does with where he is. What were you running from? A woman I loved who didn't love me back. A business partner who stole everything I'd built. A town that decided I was worthless when I lost my money. He looked at Evelyn. I came here thinking I'd never trust anyone again. Then Samuel trusted me with his land. And you trusted me with your future. You earned both. Did I? Every day. Jonah pulled her close. I want to build something here, not just a barn, a life, a real one. With me, if you'll have me. Evelyn's heart hammered. Is that a proposal? It's a question, a real one, not pretty words or promises I might not keep. Just honest truth about what I want. Jonah cupped her face. I want to wake up next to you every morning, build a home with you, face whatever comes together instead of alone. I want forever, Evelyn, but only if that's what you want too. It is, she whispered. It's exactly what I want. Then marry me. Not because you have nowhere else to go, not because I saved you or you saved me, but because we choose each other. Yes. They married 3 weeks later in the church, with Mrs. Chen standing as witness, and half the town in attendance. Even Catherine came sitting quietly in the back pew, crying for reasons that had nothing to do with sadness. The ceremony was simple. No elaborate promises. No flowery speeches. Just two people standing before God and community speaking truth. I choose you, Jonah said when it was his turn to speak. Every day, in good times and hard ones. When it's easy and when it's not. I choose you. I choose you back, Evelyn replied, not because I need saving, but because choosing you makes me stronger, because together we're better than either of us could be alone. I choose you, Jonah Hale, today and always. The kiss that sealed their vows was witnessed by a community that had watched both of them arrive broken and leave whole. Afterward, at the celebration, Mrs. Chen hosted. People came up to offer congratulations and share stories about how Evelyn had stood up to Marcus, how Jonah had quietly helped people for years without expecting anything in return, how together they'd shown the town what real courage looked like. You're a hell of a woman, Mr. Peterson said, raising his glass. This town is better for having you in it. It's a hell of a town, Evelyn replied. It just needed reminding. As the evening wore on, Evelyn found herself standing outside, looking at the stars. Catherine appeared beside her. Beautiful night. It is. I'm leaving tomorrow, Catherine said. Going to stay with my aunt in San Francisco. Start over somewhere new. That's probably wise. I want to apologize. Really apologize. For everything. Evelyn turned to face her. You already did. At the trial. That was legal testimony. This is personal. Catherine's voice shook. I treated you terribly because I was jealous. Because you had something I wanted. Marcus. No. Courage. You stood up for yourself even when it cost you everything. I never had that. I just went along with whatever Marcus wanted because it was easier. Catherine wiped her eyes. You taught me that easy isn't always right. You testified against him. That took courage. Only after you showed me it was possible. Evelyn reached out and squeezed Catherine's hand. Good luck in San Francisco. Good luck here, with your cowboy and your life and everything you've built. It's not built yet, just started. Then good luck with the building. Catherine left and Evelyn stood there alone for a moment, thinking about everything that had happened. About arriving in this town, humiliated and broken. About Jonah offering her space to breathe. About fighting Marcus and winning. About choosing to stay when leaving would have been easier. About learning the difference between being chosen and choosing back. Jonah found her there, wrapped his arms around her from behind. "You all right?" he asked. "I'm perfect." "Liar, but I'll take it." She turned in his arms. "I was just thinking about the day I arrived, how certain I was that my life was over. And now I know it was just beginning." They stood there together, two people who'd learned that real love wasn't found in pretty letters or grand promises. It was built through choosing each other every single day. Through standing together when standing alone would be easier. Through believing that partnership meant making each other stronger, not one person saving the other. The railroad came through 6 months later, bringing commerce and growth to the town. Jonah's land value tripled, but he never sold. He built a house on the property instead, a real home with rooms for the future they were planning together. Evelyn continued working with Mrs. Chen, eventually buying into the boarding house as a partner. Together they expanded it, creating a place where women traveling alone could find safety and respect. Marcus Brennan never returned to town. Rumor said he'd failed in Nevada and moved further west, still chasing the easy win that always seemed just out of reach. Years later, a young woman arrived at the boarding house alone, frightened, clearly running from something. Evelyn saw herself in that woman's eyes. "Do you have somewhere to stay?" Evelyn asked. "No, I have nothing." "That's not true. You have a choice about what comes next." Evelyn opened the door wider. "Come in. Let's figure this out together." The woman hesitated, then stepped inside. And Evelyn smiled, remembering a quiet cowboy who'd offered her the same gift, not rescue, but space, to find her own strength. She'd learned that being chosen mattered, but choosing back mattered more. She'd learned that real love was quiet action, not loud promises. She'd learned that the strongest partnerships were built by two people who made each other braver, not smaller. And she'd learned that sometimes the worst moment of your life was just the beginning of something better if you were brave enough to stay and fight for it. Evelyn Hart Hale had been rejected at arrival by a man who never deserved her. But she'd been chosen by a man who saw her worth even when she couldn't see it herself. And more importantly, she'd chosen him back not from need but from strength. That choice made all the difference.